Okay, so on behalf of Gst International Foundation and GILC and today's participants, I would like to wish Dr. O'Grady Jones a very happy birthday and many happy returns of the day. Happy birthday, ma'am. Okay, as we all know, we are conducting this session as part of ILPE version 2.0. We have a short promo of this year's ILPE which we would like to share with you. Safat, could you please play the video for us?
Good morning, everyone. A very warm welcome to Your Excellency, Mr. U.S.A Ambassador to Bangladesh.
This is the kind of teacher that you want to be. Feel that positive energy? Do you know when you're in this classroom, you're going to learn something, you're going to have fun? Right out of the nation. That's great. Study on U.S. University campuses are absolute academic superstars.
Thank you, Safat. We are pitching ILP as a national round for selecting Team Bangladesh for IUL, that is the International Olympiad on English Language and Leadership. Last year, the first edition of IUL was held in Hanoi, Vietnam. We have a short look back video on the event. Safat, could you please play the IUL video for us? Thank you, Safat. Today, we are also joined by Mr. Biplab Deb, sir. Sir is the president of Gst International Foundation, one of our key partnering organizations in organizing ILPE. Thank you for being with us here today, sir. Okay, so before we start off the session, I have some directives for our participants. So all of you, please, the participants actually, please keep your camera turned on and microphone muted throughout the workshop session. If you have any question, please note it down or write it down in the chat box. We will have a dedicated question answer session after the workshop. And also after the workshop, we will have a quiz, a demo quiz session for tomorrow's exam. I hope you will stay tuned with us for that. Thank you. So to start off, I'd like to request Dr. Marshall Jones, sir, to present your keynote speech.
Thank you very much. So you're sitting for these exams tomorrow, is that correct?
We have this preliminary round tomorrow, the preliminary
Okay.
round of ILPE version 2.0, and we are conducting a demo exam for that so that students can better affiliate themselves with the process.
Excellent, excellent. Well, best of luck to everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you. Are we starting our part of the session now?
Yes, sir. You can start your presentation, sir.
Okay. The first thing I need, or that Mary and I need, is we need some volunteers from our participants. What we have is we've created a document, a Google document, and as people post their ideas and their questions in the chat window, we need somebody to copy those and paste those into each of the sections of the table. Does that make sense? So we're going to need a couple of volunteers. You're probably going to need computer access. So if you're doing this from your phone, I don't know how well you'd be able to do that. Are there any participants who would be willing to volunteer?
Do we have any volunteers?
I would like to volunteer.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I think probably if we have 4 or 5 volunteers, that would probably be good. That's a link to the document I just posted in the chat window.
All we're asking you to do is just kind of help us monitor the chat, and that helps us keep track of questions because they'll come up very quickly for us while we're speaking. So if you would just love a few people to jump in and help out.
Sure, ma'am, no problem.
Okay, well, let's see if hold on, I am having just a moment here. I am looking for the screen to show. Okay, can everybody, you can see the screen?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay. Mary, I am in full presentation mode, and I don't think I'm going to be able to see the chat window while I'm in full presentation mode. So can you monitor that for me, please, Dr. O'Grady Jones? Okay. It's a pleasure to be with everybody here today. We are happy to be speaking with you. We are both scholar practitioners. I'm a professor at Winthrop University, and Mary is a teacher of science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics at Gold Hill Elementary in Fort Mill, South Carolina. We're also Gst Advisors, and we've been fortunate to work with people in person in Vietnam last year and in Bangladesh prior to that. It's always a pleasure to be able to work with the students in Gst partner schools, and we will share this presentation with you so that you can find our professional websites and connect with us that way as well. So we were asked to speak to you today about online learning and professional advancement. And so we want to focus on 5 areas today. 1 is maximizing learning. 2 is setting goals. And 3 are target specific technology skills you should develop. And then how do you build world-class skills and showcase your growth? But first, my question is, I think a pretty good place to start is, what is online learning? And sorry, I am trying to find the chat window as well so I can see. So I'm curious, during the pandemic, a lot of you were doing online learning. What are you doing in your classes? Are you doing Zoom classes? Are you watching pre-recorded videos? What are some of the things that you're doing in your classes?
Okay, participants, some of you can unmute yourself and answer and interact with our discussions today.
Sir, am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
Thank you, sir. In my institution, we are doing both. We are also doing classes in Zoom, and also we have a website where our recorded classes are being uploaded.
Excellent. Excellent. Anybody else? Okay. Well, we'll move on. Online learning that's when we use the internet to deliver educational materials, but it's a part of something called distance learning, which has been around for quite some time. The distance learning actually began back in the 1700s when a man in England began teaching shorthand by letter. And so he would send lessons out through the mail and students would interact that way. So over the years, we've used different technologies for distance learning. In Australia, where there are where teachers and students are separated by hundreds of miles, they would use shortwave radio for delivering distance learning. So online learning is a form of distance learning, and it's the most recent form of distance learning that we've used. So during the pandemic, more and more people have found distance learning to be not only a necessary way to communicate with students, but also that they're beginning to see some of the power that distance learning and online learning can bring to the classroom. So we want to talk to you a little bit about how you, as a student looking towards your future, can use online learning in a couple of ways. So the first thing is, and Dr. O'Grady-Jones, I usually call her Mary, feel free to jump in anytime.
Got it.
The first thing you want to do is, when you're thinking about online learning, is you want to maximize your learning. So you want to find people that are going to make you smarter. So the people that you are in your classes with, your teachers will certainly make you smarter, but there are other people in your lives that will make you smarter as well. And you want to be looking for people who can help you learn things that you don't know. And you want to be finding places that are going to help you grow professionally, and they're going to help and locate sources that are going to help you to thrive. Because one thing we want to point out about online learning is that online learning can happen formally and it can happen informally. So I've always liked this quadrant here by Marcia Connor that talks about formal and informal learning. So you probably know what formal learning is, so that learning can happen because it's planned and because we are anticipating learning something. And learning can also happen unexpectedly. So we learn things in the course of our day, in the course of our life online, that will help us to get better at what we do. So here are some examples of formal and informal learning. So on the left hand, you've got more formal opportunities like classes, e-learning, and meetings that you might attend, much like this meeting. And then you also have formal learning that's unexpected. So if you're doing research and you're on the internet, you know how you always find things that you weren't looking for, but they're useful and interesting to you. But there's also learning that happens informally. Sometimes that's intentional. So if you're reading a book or visiting a museum, you're going to learn something informally but intentionally. But then sometimes it just happens through the course of your day, through the course of your interactions with your community, with your friends. Sometimes you learn the most when you aren't expecting to learn those things. So we want you to keep this idea of formal and informal learning in your head. Okay, Dr. Grady Jones?
Yes, sir. So one of the things that I've found is important in learning and in developing those professional is set specific goals, personal goals. What is it that you want to accomplish? It's important to scan the community and know what are some issues in your area. What's a way that you can make an impact? Then learning goals. To have both formal and informal learning goals. And the graphic to the side here, developing those goals can seem kind of overwhelming, but if you think about being very specific in your goal setting, have it measurable. When I started my doctorate, it wasn't going to happen in 1 month. It was a long process. So it was increments and steps, much like the graphic. Make sure that they're achievable goals, that they're realistic, and that they're timely. So that takes you doing some reflecting on where you want to go and what you want to do.
And so we want you to think about your personal goals, because aspiring leaders see change as necessary and good. So think about, what are you good at now? What can you improve at? And as you think about those things, think about how it impacts your community, because aspiring leaders want to help make their communities better, their neighborhoods, their cities, their countries better. So what are you good at that you can use to help improve your community? And then also thinking about learning goals. So certainly formal learning goals that you might have. You want to do well in your studies. You want to do well on these preliminary examinations tomorrow. But what are some informal learning goals that you would have as well? Do you want to become a better public speaker? Do you want to become do you want to learn another language besides English and Bangla? So what are some of your informal learning goals that you might have as well? Now, as you're setting goals, we think this is a pretty good place to start, particularly when you're looking at community goals. These are the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and the link to that source is available here. But the United Nations has identified 17 things that all countries should be working towards in terms of sustainable development. So everything from eradicating poverty, to ending food insecurity, to improving quality education, gender equality. So these 17 things are a good way for you to focus your energies as you're developing, as you're thinking about developing goals to help support your community. Dr. Grady Jones, anything to add?
Yeah, I was going to share a story. I coach our robotics team, and our robotics team is made up of 9 and 10-year-olds. And in our last competition in the fall, there was a group from another South Carolina town, and they noticed in their community that a problem that had been going on for a long, long time, that when it rained or when we had a hurricane, the road to the hospital got blocked because of water. And this is a known problem in the town, but it took a group of 4th and 5th graders, 9 and 10-year-olds, to look at the problem, come up with a solution, and propose it to the city. So there's things all around you that you can address, that you can take in your own community. They ended up interacting with their city departments, but they came up with a solution. So it's something that's just, it's a powerful thing to be able to look at some of these things and interact within your own community.
Okay, so next we want to talk to you about targeting skills, so specific skills that that leaders need. And so we want to think about specific technology skills that are going to help you not only develop as a leader, but also they're going to help you in online learning. The first thing that you're going to need is sort of basic technical proficiency in Office tools. So with word processors and presentation software and spreadsheets. So you need that sort of basic proficiency in those tools. That's what everybody needs. It's sort of a baseline. You can get those skills through things like the traditional Microsoft Office. Google offers all of those tools available for free if you're a Google user, through Google Docs, Slides, Sheets, etc. So, but that's your baseline. But you want to develop some more advanced technical proficiency skills as well. Some things that you might think about are media production, the ability to create videos like we saw in the beginning of the session here today. Those were impressive videos, but there's a lot you can do there's a lot that individuals can do in terms of media production as well. Website design and development is another tool that you would need to be able to use online learning to help both distribute information and to share what you know. But our question to you is, what are some other skills that you think that you should target in terms of technical proficiency? Tell us in the chat window. I think I found out how to look at it in the presentation window.
So one of the things that I've found has been important is coding, and kind of the interactions of how does a website work, how does the computer work. And so my students, we do a lot of, because they're younger, a lot of very simple coding, but that's something that I have taken on. It was not a part of my doctoral program to learn that coding, but it was something that I felt was important for me and for my students. So that's another area that I would throw in. And Marshall, I'm seeing graphic design, machine learning, artificial intelligence.
Machine learning, artificial intelligence, that's going to be a huge issue going forward, because in online learning particularly, there's all sorts of data that gets generated. Yes, so somebody just said data analytics. Every time you go into a system like Zoom, into your Google Drive, into a learning management system, you're leaving data behind. And people are taking that data and they're using it to make, they're using it to hopefully for good things and not for bad things, but they're using that to make software better. Does anybody use voice typing on their phone, where you speak into the phone and it translates your voice into text? That's artificial intelligence. That's machine learning. You know how sometimes you say one word and it types another thing that you didn't mean? Do you have that experience? Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Yes, the autocorrect. The reason for that is that artificial intelligence isn't artificial and it's not that intelligent. It's machine learning. So it's every time you speak, it gets better because it has, the more people speak, the better it is at predicting what you said. Because the voice typing isn't voice typing, it's a prediction from the computer about what they think that you meant. So all of that is to say that working with big data, working with data analytics, learning to prepare the data for machine learning and artificial intelligence is another area that you should be looking at, possibly targeting. What are some others? Tell us in the chat window. I can now see it, so I'm very excited by that. Cybersecurity is another area to consider, particularly in online learning. We have blockchain technology. Yes, the cryptocurrency, blockchain technology are other areas that we're going to see become more and more important in online learning and distance learning. Are you familiar with badges? Have you ever heard of digital badges? Digital badges you can learn, instead of getting an entire degree in artificial intelligence, you might learn, you might take an online course like a MOOC, and you would, if you complete it successfully, then you get a badge. And so that badge is it's a graphic that you can display on your professional website that says that you have this skill. But being able to verify that people have those skills is where an area where blockchain technology can help us to verify that somebody actually has those skills. So one of the things that you need to be doing and learning to do is what we call environmental scanning. And what that means is that you're always looking forward to see what technologies are coming, are in development, and how we might use those technologies. In the United States, we were not very good at at the phone in schools. We did not do a good job. We had cell phone technology long before we had problems with phones in schools and students using phones in schools, and we knew that we were going to have them. We just didn't plan for it very well. So looking at the future to find those skills that are out there can help us to be more proactive and less reactive to technology changes. So another set of skills we want to talk to you about are 21st century learning skills. And I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Mary.
So, and I think in a lot of ways we've already hit on some of these things, those critical thinking skills, problem finding, and that's that proactive moving forward, scanning your community. What are the problems that are there that you can put your skills to and time into solving? So rather than just always solving a problem, it's identifying, and that's that true leadership is seeing a problem and then going after a solution. Media literacy is incredibly important right now. Being aware of all of the messages that we have coming in, and this is something even with my young elementary students that we talk about all the time, is what media are you interacting with? What messages are you getting? And being very critical about that. What is the context of these messages that are coming at you? And then being just very aware of the assumptions that you make in your daily life, and looking at things from different perspectives. So sort of flipping assumptions and digging deeper and understanding can be incredibly important. I know a lot of my students say, oh, I'm not creative, or they think of creativity as the artists and the musicians, but there's creativity in all of us, and there's creativity in putting together a computer program. There's creativity in building a house. There's creativity in all things that we do, and to just open up yourselves to that creativity and accept that as a part of your as a part of your life. Ron Bagetto, Dr. Bagetto talks about creativity in terms of big C, little c, and small c. And the big C is, Picasso and Mozart, but in our lives, we have little c and small c, things that are unique to us. Collaboration, and this is where I think all of you, all of us being here together today, that's a start for a collaboration. If you look at not just Marshall and I and the leaders of this group, but look at each other. You choosing to be here makes you a leader. You're choosing to participate in this makes you a leader, and you've got peers here that you can communicate with, collaborate with, develop expertise. Within this group, you can find a small pocket of people who are interested in the same things that you are, and you can work together to solve these problems and solutions, come up with solutions, create new things. And all of these involve that communication, speaking, listening, and then sharing your ideas through a variety of media. So I think that while you're developing your individual skills, if you think about these, they call them the 4 C's, and how you can connect with each other and with mentors in your community, with us as mentors for you, these are the skills that you need to develop as well. Because if you can code but you can't communicate, what you've learned is not very effective. So I'm highly passionate about these 4 C's, and looking, and really would encourage all of you to look to each other to start building that community of learners. Marshall, I'm hitting it back to you.
I was talking to people in the chat windows as well. It's interesting to see how creative and what you do for fun outside of your work. All the things that you talked about, from writing to coding to reusing things in art. Those are things that are going to help you become a more creative professional, and that's going to help you become a leader, particularly as we move online. So you want to be working on building what we think of as world-class skills, and you want to think about how you're going to do that both formally and informally. So how many of you have heard of MOOCs? Do you know MOOCs? Massive online open courses? Yes? Type me a Y for yes and an N for no.
Looks like we have a mixture of yes and no. Coursera, Udemy.
edX, yes, 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 yes. All of those things are examples of MOOCs. MOOCs are, they're a type of online formal learning. There are other places that you can go as well. Have you heard of Khan Academy? Yes. I love the story of Sal Khan. Sal Khan was he was an investment banker in and he had his cousin was struggling in math, so he started making those explainer videos and posting them to YouTube, and then one day he became this giant force in online learning. Anybody can do that. If you have a good idea and you have the ability to produce media and to post it online, then anybody can do that and sort of have that sort of impact as well. But there's informal learning that happens online as well through things like social media groups. I know that many of you are a part of Facebook groups. Yes? You type me a Y for yes or an N for no. Many of you are Facebook. I know that earlier in the chat that the GILC is using LinkedIn, a LinkedIn group, as a way to connect people as well. These are great ways for you to connect professionally with other people. How many of you are Twitter users? Twitter? Yes? No? No?
I would say that
I recommend Twitter.
Sorry, I was going to say
yeah.
that I use Twitter all the time, teacher groups, and where they're just sharing information, sharing ideas. It's such a great place for me professionally, just to find out what other people are up to, what other people are doing. I find it to be a great place to, I follow different authors, I follow different creators and makers, and so it's a great place to find people for inspiration, really.
Twitter is one of those interesting social media platforms to me because I don't look at it every day. Sometimes weeks will go by and I won't look at it. But every time I go on Twitter, I learn something new. And I would tell that Mary and I both are on Facebook, but if you Facebook friend requested us, we're probably going to say no. Because that for us is more of a, while we do use Facebook professionally, we also use Facebook personally. And we just have to be careful about, I'm not a public figure and I don't have a public figure account. But you can follow me on Twitter and you can follow Mary on Twitter as well. And we are always happy to communicate with people on Twitter. That's a place where I share a lot of the things that I find, links to articles and readings. I use it to communicate with my students on a regular basis as well. So we talked about the about MOOCs. This is a list of the 2019 list of the top 100 online courses. So that link is in the bottom of this slide. And again, we'll share this presentation with you at the end of the session. So there are lots of places that you can go online to learn for free. And so this is where, once you have targeted your skills, where you've decided what you're good at and what you want to improve on and how they're going to impact your community and how you're going to share these things, you can go and search for these things that exist to help you get better. And this is a great place to start. This is a great place to start on that list. Anything to add, Dr. Mary?
No, I think that's a good, I think go back to that SMART, setting SMART goals and figuring out and being targeted, taking it one step at a time, so you can have a longer range plan, but, again, make sure it's targeted and measurable and start building. So
finally, one of the things you want to do is you want to showcase your skills. So you want to be thinking about how you can show what you know to a wider audience, and that comes down to developing what I want you to think of as a professional online presence. So, for example, I don't really use Facebook as my professional online presence. I use Twitter and LinkedIn more for my professional online presence. I have created and I manage multiple websites, but marshallgjones.com is my professional website, and I have invested in that domain name, and that's a website where I put information that I think is going to help, that is one, going to help others, and two, is going to help my professional advancement. So so you want to be really, really mindful and careful about your online profile and reputation. So think carefully about what you post. Think carefully about the image of yourself that you want to present to the world. And that brings us to the end of our prepared remarks. You can find and follow us on Twitter. I am at Marshall G. Jones. Mary is at Mary O'Grady Jones. If you're not a Twitter user, or you're kind of worried about being on Twitter, you can make up a name right now just to see what it's like. You can make up an account and make up a name, and nobody will really know who you are, just to get a feel for what Twitter what Twitter is like. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we will open it up for questions.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. Before we go on to the question answer session, I'd like to request Biplab, sir. Sir, what is your thoughts on today's session and the overall ILP? Could you please share your thoughts with us?
Thank you. And I hope this presentation will help our students to know something new and think differently, because we can see that nowadays most of our students are using online platform to learn their lesson, or different schools are running different their programs for sending study materials to the students. And students are also using YouTube, or they are also using Facebook live video with the teacher to learn their lesson. And Professor Marshall shared some more information, that is think professionally, like try to use Twitter, try to use LinkedIn, and try to develop your skill on online platform or multimedia. I think it will be helpful for you. And so always keep your passion for learning, and I think it will be helpful for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, so now I'd like to thank all our viewers from our Facebook live session. Thank you for joining us in today's session, and I hope we will have you in our future sessions as well. Now we'd like to move on to our question answer session that we had. We said we will have a dedicated question answer session. So if anyone have any questions, they can unmute themselves, or they can raise their hand and